I have to talk to you about Venezuela. Venezuelan opposition leader said that Venezuela will be free and would not be here without the vision and courage of US President Donald Trump. This is, of course, after the US forces captured dictator Nicolas Maduro and his wife from Caracas, and they're now facing charges in New York. The Wall Street Journal is running a poll that suggests that US voters narrowly support Maduro's removal, but they don't want the US running Venezuela. What's your assessment of how Americans are feeling about this over there?
Yeah, and by the way, I can tell you because I represent that schism. Like, I also kind of feel like I'm glad that Maduro is out, but wasn't a big, like, I'm not a big, unlike Iran, you know, we can't go to every single regime we don't like and throw them out, right? Otherwise, we'd be throwing out 75% of all regimes around the world, certainly in South America and Central America. Having said that, I'll tell you this, that the Venezuelan people will and are looking at Donald Trump as a hero. That there's no question about. I think they are thrilled that Maduro is gone. Look, I was in Venezuela for a couple of weeks where I shot a documentary a few years ago, and I saw firsthand what the people are going through, how difficult it is for them. Difficult actually isn't the right word. It's horrific. It is post-apocalyptic. I don't use that word lightly. That's not me being hyperbolic. It really is. The death and destruction you see across that country is unbelievable. The city looks normal. Caracas looks normal. You have skyrises and buildings and restaurants, but it is an eerie landscape. I was filming at one point when I hear pop, pop, pop. I looked around and there was a guy shot right in front of me and my crew as we're getting B-roll. And we turned the camera and started filming this. The guy's lying, dying in the street. People are just walking by because it's happened so often. A cop walked up to him, took a look at him and walked away. It was crazy. I went to the barrios, the most dangerous parts of the city, to talk to people there. I was walking down the street with a guy in those barrios at night. And I was like, what are you doing out at night? He said, I'm looking for food, pigeon, cat, dog, whatever you can find. I mean, it was a horrific existence in Venezuela, and I think Trump has changed that. And I think in that way, I think he'll be looked upon as a hero by the Venezuelans. Although I did find it so interesting with Machado. You know, do you remember that first press conference when they asked him Machado what her role would be? He's like, I don't know. She has a role. I don't think she has support. Well, what do you think? He's so typical, right? Oh my, he's so predictable. She comes to the White House. I love you, Trump. Gives him the Nobel Peace Prize. He's like, I think there might be a role for Machado. I think she may have a role. It's so
Donald Trump, he is very unique. But as you say, look, he's certainly a hero in the eyes of many Venezuelans. So many people celebrating after what happened with Maduro, absolutely. Ami, there's so much going on in the world. We have to talk about Gaza. The White House announced that it was moving ahead with the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire deal, Donald Trump's 20-point plan for Gaza. Today, the president said that his board of peace might replace the UN, hinting, make of that what you will, saying that the UN has never lived up to its potential. Now, of course, this body of peace, or board of peace, I should say, is the body that is meant to oversee Gaza's post-war development. Trump has invited 60 countries to join the board. Permanent membership will be available to those who pay $1 billion. What's your assessment, Ami? Is it going to work?
First of all, I'm shocked. Shocked. It's not called Trump's Board of Peace, okay? But what are you gonna do? Maybe you just forgot. Look, I think it's really interesting. Certainly, when it comes to in the charter, the idea ostensibly is to rebuild Gaza, but in the charter itself, it doesn't actually mention Gaza. So yes, that's why the speculation that it might be a replacement for the UN, which I think is great. I did an entire movie, a theatrical film on the UN, where I travel the world visiting the UN, interviewing officials of the UN, and I can tell you it's a piece of garbage, right? It has been for decades. So yeah, replacing the UN would be phenomenal, but replacing it with the same kind of people, I don't see what the point of that. That's the problem with the UN in general. That you're sitting with, the democracies are sitting with dictators, and that's why there's nothing that can be done there, right? So I think when his invitation includes people like Putin and Turkey and Qatar, those aren't very PC people. Those are not people rolling hard toward peace. I think that would create the same kind of problems we saw with the UN itself. So I'm not sure what that will do. But look, I think we need to look for alternatives. I do applaud him for looking outside the box for something else. And I think that Gaza is a good place to start. Look, let's see what can be done with the Gaza Strip. Let's see if it can be rebuilt in a way that is able to replace Hamas, put in another leadership that would not try to create and sow violence all across Israel. It's a good point to start. Let's see what happens, and then I'll come back on a comment.